We begin today the Gemara on Daf Kuf Nun Hey Yamad Aleph, 9 lines down from the top of the Yamad where it says Itmer. The Gemara here begins a new inyan, but this is brought here because of a Braise that was quoted before, and the Gemara is going to bring back that Braise as a question on this subject. So Itmer, we learned the following machlokes. Cotton. A cotton, a child, and his father passed away, and there's an inheritance, and he wants to sell from the properties of his father. From what age is he allowed to sell from the properties of his father? Now, Minat Torah, of course, we know that a cotton becomes a gadol at the age of 13. He's bar mitzvah, he's chayiv in mitzvahs, and so on. So he should be able to sell the properties as well. He's considered to be an adult, a bar das. But Chazal instituted that when it comes to inheritance, that a child cannot sell even after bar mitzvah up to a certain age. And the reason for this is because selling, and here we're talking specifically about selling real estate, properties, not just movable items. Such a valuable thing, a child that inherits even after the age of bar mitzvah may not necessarily understand what's going on. He wants quick money, and he sees these properties, so he'll sell them, and even for a cheap price. So he may lose out a lot on this, and the family will lose out a lot of this. So Chachamim instituted that he's not allowed to sell. The Rishonim say, most Rishonim say, that this is specifically by an inheritance. When you own a piece of property that you earn, so if this child somehow got a piece of property that he bought himself, he's allowed to sell it at any age because he paid for it and he'll value it more. But he gets here this inheritance where he didn't earn it, and now he may sell it for a cheap price and lose a lot of money in this. Or people could take advantage of it. Other Rishonim, we'll see in the continuation of the Gemara and the next staff actually, that the big point of here is also people will show him a little money and they'll take advantage of this person. So therefore, they said as follows, that you can only sell up a later point. Rava Omer Rav Nachman, when he's 18 years old. Rav Huna, that's you have to be 18 years old and one day. You want to soon will explain. Rav Huna bar Chinana Omer Rav Nachman, mi ben esrim shana. It's from the age of 20. 20 years old, that's when you can sell your father's inheritance. The Rishonim, based on the Gemara Namud Bey, say that the Gersa has switched around. It's really Rava, the one that said in the name of Rav Nachman, that it's 20 years old. Now this inyan, that the child sells nichsei aviv at the age of 20, there's a maimer Lekutei Torah, the second maimer in Parshas Bamidbar, where the Alter Rebbe brings this inyan and explains it beruchnius, that nichsei aviv refers to a certain level in das and seichel and learning and Torah, and limker b'nichsei aviv at the age of 20 is a higher level in aveda b'chol ma'oitcha. When a yid is able to have the koyach at the age of 20, there's a level of das that comes in at the bar mitzvah. But at the age of 20, there's a level of keser, of kol ma'oitcha, a much higher level that comes into the person, that gets revealed in a person, that he's able to elevate his aveda and limker, to sell, to dedicate himself to a much higher level in Avodas Hashem. That's what the Alter Rebbe explains there. Must of Rab Zayda. So Rab Zayda asks here on the opinion that says that it's 20 years old. So here it brings the Braisa that was mentioned before in the previous daf. Ma'aseh b'Bnei Barak, there was a story in Bnei Barak, be'echad, shamacha b'nichsei aviv. So someone, the father died, and now one of the children went and sold one of the properties of the father. Umeis, and this child that sold, he passed away. Now, Bo b'nei mishpacha, now the family members came and said, v'iriru, and they challenged this whole sale. Laimar to say, cotton hoya b'shas misa. This child was he was a cotton at the time that the father passed away, and therefore, according to the way the Gemara concluded before, what happened over here is the buyers already took possession of these properties that they bought, but now the family members want to repossess it. They're saying that he was just a child when he sold it, and therefore the sale is null and void. And the family members came to ask Rabbi Akiva, Ma'u l'boitkai. Can we come and check the dead body to see whether he was a cotton when he sold it or not, to know whether the sale is in effect or not? Amalahem, so Rabbi Akiva answered them, you can't do such a thing. You can't check the dead body. It's disgraceful, so it's not an option. And v'oid, another thing he said to them is, simanim asuyin l'shtanes la'achamisa, whatever signs you would see on the dead body, which are the hairs that grow, that show the sign of adulthood, so those simanim are not something that are necessarily going to be telling if you check the body after it passes away, because that's something that could change in the nature of the body. And therefore, there's no point in checking the body. That's the story of the Braisa. So now the Gemara says, we just explained that it's not about 13 years old. It's about 18 or 20. So says the Gemara, Bish, according to the opinion that says that a child, the sale that he sells the property of his father will only be in effect if he was 18 years old. So then, Hainu the cause of Amrulay. This is why the family came and said, Ma'ala Baitkai. Let's inspect his body to see if he was allowed to sell. So the Rashbam explains, because if it's at the age of 18 years old, so what that would mean is that in order for him to be able to sell, you need two things. Number one, he has to be a gadol. He has to be an adult, and that's something that you can see by the physical signs in his body of the other two hairs that show that he's an adult. And besides that, he also has to be 18. If you're missing one of them, if he's going to be 18, but his body didn't mature yet, and as you see physically in his body that he did not mature yet, the fact that he's 18 is not going to be enough. So therefore they said, obviously they knew his age. That wasn't the question over here. I mean, if they didn't know his age, let them prove his age. That would be much easier. His age was known. Elamai, they claimed that even though he was 18, but the physical signs of his body to mature, to be a gadol, did not happen yet. So therefore they said, let's check his body to see that he was 18, and he has the shtei sidus to know that he was a gadol. So then we can understand why they were asking for this. But
You can't check, he said.
Oh, yeah, that's what he answered. It's not right to do. You can't, yeah. But if you're going to say that the only time a child could sell the property of the father is when he's 20 years old, so then kibbot kilei mai have, checking the body to see if he has shtei sidus or not, that does not matter. Once you reach to the age of 20, so then the child is considered to be an adult, a gadol, even without the simanim of the shtei sidus. Sometimes the body delays to bring to develop the mature, and that there should be the two hairs, but not from the age of 20. From the age of 20, whether the body produced has these two hairs or not, either way the child is considered to be a gadol. So if so, the age of 20, it's whether he has the two hairs or not, it doesn't make a difference anymore. And as the Gemara here brings from a Mishnah in Masechta Nida, the Mishnah Masechta Nida says, Ben Esrim, Shulehevi Shtei Sidus, at the age of 20 and his body still is underdeveloped and there's no two hairs, Yavi Rayishu Ben Esrim, he proves that he's 20 years old, and Vuhu Asaris, and this is what's called a Saris, a person that his body is not going to mature and is not going to develop, and therefore even in that area, his body is not going to mature, but he's already considered to be an adult without those simonim. And that's what's called a Saris. This is a person that he can't give birth, and so on. So therefore, regarding him, the Mishnah there says, the halach is, Lechaylitz v'le miyabim. If his brother passes away, and the wife, there's no children, and there's a mitzvah of yibum, but what's the whole mitzvah of yibum? That the brother should marry the wife to give birth to children, al shem achiv. But if he's a sadis and he can't give birth, so then lechaylitz v'le miyabim. There's no mitzvah of yibum, and there's no mitzvah of chalitza either. So what do you see here in this Mishnah? That at the age of 20, so it doesn't matter anymore whether there's shtei sidus or not, he's considered an adult automatically, and now we know that the reason why there's no shtei sidus is because he's a sadis, because his body is not going to, in that area, is not going to develop. So what was the point of the family here saying, let's check if he has shtei sidus or not? So the Gemara answers, the Gemara says, no, that over here we misunderstood this. Lav itmar Allah, didn't we learn about that Mishnah Masechta Nida? Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak amar Rav, that when do we say that the shtei sidus, whether the body has these two sidus to show the sign of maturity, that it doesn't matter, Fuhu sheneldu by simonei sris. There are other simonim that the body has to show that he is actually this sris, that he is this person that his body is not going to develop. There are simonei sris that the Gemara in Nida speaks about. Certain things, that show that he is dafke, a person that is not going to bring any signs. Then I say that without shtei sidus, he's already considered to be an adult, because there's simonim that his body is different, that his body is not going to develop. So over here, that's not what we're talking about. Over here, we're talking about a child, or a person actually, at the age of 20, that didn't show any simoni sris. So over here, it still would matter to know if he has shtei sidus. If he shtei sidus at the age of 20, he's going to be an adult, and if not, he won't be an adult. So therefore, the family said, let's check and see if he's an adult or not.
But how can you accept it? It's a miyut shebemiyut.
What's a miyut shebemiyut?
To say that he was a sodis and that he doesn't have this simonim.
But
the overwhelming majority, the klal is that at 18 you do have that.
Okay,
so why can't you apply a klal instead of going to say go dig up the body?
No, but if you know for a fact that there's no simoni seris over here, in this person. And on the other hand, this family is claiming, we know for a fact that there's no simanim of him being a sris, true, but there's also no simanim of him having shtei sidus. So therefore they said, let's inspect. Well, I'll prove it to you. That we know that there was no shtei sidus. So that's what they were suggesting. Omar Rave, now Rave says to prove the point that he said here, and what it says, the pshat in that Mishnah, that even at the age of 20, you only say that this child is considered to be a gadol without shtei sidus. If there are simani sidis, the body is showing simanim that he's a sidis, they can I'll prove it to you in the lashon of the Mishnah, because the Ketani, the Mishnah there says that he's 20 years old, and v'hu asadis. This is the person that's the sadis, he's underdeveloped. Why does it add those words, v'hu asadis? That's extra words that's telling us, Shema Mina, from here I see what the Mishnah is saying, that Shema Mina, that proves the point that only if he has hu asadis, we see clear signs that he's a sadis, then if there's no shtei sidus, I say that at the age of 20, he's going to be a gadol without the shtei sidus. Okay, but now the Gemara goes to the next steps to explain. So what's if this child, as we're saying, if the case here was, he did not show any simani sadis. At what age will we say that he's already a gadol without shtei sidus? If there's no simana that this person is not going to develop in this area, so up until what age do we say that we'll still consider him to be maybe a cotton? At what age do we say that not now he's going to be a gadol even without simani sidis? Tani Rab Chia says ad roiv shnoisav. After he passes most of his lifetime, then even without any simanim at all, we know that he's a gadol. So what is that? So as Rashbami brings, based on the pasuk that a person's life is shivim shana, 70 years, so that would mean that when he enters into his 36th year, which means he's 35 years old and a day, so now he went into the second half of his life, roiv shnoisav, at that point, even without any simanim, no simani sris, no simanim of having shtei sidus, he's considered to be a gadol. Regarding this, a person that is maturing late in his life and his body is not developing properly, basically, and this could be something that's caused by a health condition, that he's not treating his body properly. It could be also because his body is just it's an exception, like you said, it's different, but it could also be because of a health condition. So when they came in front of Rab Chia, so he would say, if this was a person that was very skinny, Amaluhu, he would say, Livri, let him become healthier, let him eat more, let him eat better. And maybe this would help him mature quicker. V'ivri, and if it was a person that was too fat, then he's not eating properly as well. So Amaluhu, he would say, Likhish, let him thin out a little, let him maybe then he'll develop the shtei sidus. Because the hani simonim, these signs of maturity, in order to help the body develop, sometimes it'll come because a person is thin, or because a person is eating a little and less, and he's eating properly. And sometimes it'll come when a person eats more. So you have to make sure that the body is healthy to help it develop and mature properly. So now going back to what we said before regarding selling nichsei aviv, properties, specifically his properties. So this is the machlokes we had before, whether it's 18 years old or 20 years old. How about in that the 18th year itself? We said it's either 18 years old or 20 years old, but how about within the 18th year, meaning from after you're 17 years old in a day, which is already the beginning of the 18th year, do I say that it has to be within the 18th year, or it means only 18 years in a day? And the same regarding 20. So the Gemara brings a machlokes. Rav Amar Rav Nachman Teichsman Kelifneisman, that if you're within that 18th year or within the 20th year, that is still considered to be like before the time Chacham and Mitzvah that you can sell. Rav Barav Shila Amar Rav Nachman Teichsman Kelachazman, that within the time that's already considered to be the age of 18, the 18th year, the 20th year itself is already like the time after that he could sell. Says the Gemara, the story or the psaktin that we said here that Rav said, he never said it clearly. It was learned out from a psaktin that he said regarding a story, because there was an individual teichsman that he was within that year, within the 20th year. If we pass in like the 20th year, so within that year, the Azal Zav Nichsi, he sold from the properties of his father. Vasa lekamei de Rava, and he came in front of Rava to see whether the sale was in effect or not. So Amaluhu, Rava said to the buyers, Lo yasav alei klum, what he sold is worthless. Now, why did he say this? So, man, those that were observing the psak din of Rava, Sava, they thought, because he was 19 years old. He was within the 20th year, so that's still considered to be underage to be able to sell the properties. But Veloihi, those that observe this, they did not observe well. That's not why Rava was saying this. Hassam, in that case, Shtuse Yiserte Chazabeh. Rava saw that there was a foolish behavior of this son that caused him to say that this child is not mature enough. He doesn't understand what he's doing when he's selling his father's properties. What did they see? The father also left them slaves that can work for them, and he was freeing these slaves. I don't need these slaves. They're too much of a headache for me. I don't want to feed them, which is a silly thing. The slaves are very valuable. You can use them as workers. So why was he freeing these slaves? That was the reason why Rava said that the sale of the property was not valid. But otherwise, if you see it's a person that's mature, so then it would be a valid sale.
So he's looking at the overall picture of.
Yeah, you have to look more to see the maturity of the person, his behavior. Yes, we'll see also in the next story here. But we paskin actually that it's only 20 years old. We paskin like that opinion that says that the 19 is not yet limka b'nichsi aviv. It's actually at the age of 20 and a day. Gidl bar Menashe sent to ask Rava, Yilamdeinu Rabbeinu, our teacher, Rava, should teach us, Tinoikis bas arbes shana. A girl, a child, and she's 14 years old, v'yayim echad in one day. So she's already bas mitzvah, and she's 14 years old. Yidas betiv masam matam. But here there's another thing. We see that she's very good in business. She understands what it means to sell, to buy. So we see that she knows what she's doing. Mahu, what's going to be the halach in this case? Are we still going to apply the limitation that Chazal established that has to be at the age of 20? Or maybe not? Maybe when she's good in masa or matan, she can sell even earlier. So Shalach Lei, Rava answered, Im Yidas, Betiv, masa or matan, if we, based on what she's doing, we see that she's very good at understanding what business is, Mekcha, Mekcha, Memkara, Memkara, the sale is a sale, whatever she buys is valid, whatever she sells is valid. That was the story. That was the shaila and the answer that Rava said. Now the Gemara just
same for a boy then.
Yeah, and the Gemara will not say this. Says the Gemara, why was he asking this about a girl? V'lishlach lei. Why didn't he ask Rava Tinik? Story with a boy. Usually, who's the one that's selling the properties? Who's the one that's yashining? The boys. So why did he ask about a girl? So the Gemara says, Ma'isa shoya kachoya. He asked the question because of an actual story that happened. And the same thing the Gemara says, why didn't he ask the question about why only a 14-year-old? It's from 12 years old that she's already bas mitzvah. So why wouldn't we? So under 12, then there's no question because she's not a bas das. But why not ask from 12 years old? So the Gemara says, the story happened with a 14-year-old girl, and therefore he asked about 14 years old. But the same halacha will also apply to a 12-year-old girl. Yeah, and a boy as well, but from 13 years old. Okay, now so this is taken out because this was here just a clear psak din from Rava. Okay, so the Gemara brings another story here also that came to Rava Shaila. Ahu pachis mi ben esrim. There was a person that was not yet 20. The Osel Zav and Nichsi. He went and sold the properties of his father. Nichsi Avu, the properties of his father. Gidl bar Menashe, based on this psak din that Rava just said to Gidl bar Menashe, that if you have a adult, he's not 20 yet, but he understands business and he's able to sell. So this person thought that he understands business and he sold from the properties of his father. Now, he came to Rava, he wanted to take back the sale. So he came to Rava to find out whether he can claim, I wasn't 20 yet, so the sale that I sold is not in effect. So his relatives were advising him for this din Torah. So Amrule Kroive, his relatives told this person, do something that will show that you're a fool. Zil achol tamri, go and eat dates, and v'shada bekashayse bei Rava, and go throw the pits by Rava's house, or in the Rava's room. And that Rava will see what you're doing, you're throwing pits in his room, and he'll see you as a fool. So Avadachi, that's what he did. So now, after Rava saw this, Amaluhu, so Rava said to the buyers, Zvine lav zvini. His sale is not in effect. Because look, he's not 20 years old, and we see that he's a fool. So now Rava had the scribe that would write the psak din for him. So when they were writing the document of the psak din for him, so now the buyers wanted to do something to prove to Rava that this child that sold actually is smart enough. He understands the value of money. So Amrulei, they came and told this child, or this one that sold to them. Amrulei Lukuches, it is. These buyers told him, Zilei Melele Rave, go and tell Rave, Megillas Esther bezuzah. You pay for a Megillas Esther a zuz. Shtare demar bezuzah. You're charging me for a star that you're writing here for the document of the psak din that I'm receiving from you. You're charging me the same expensive price like what you paid for a Megillas Esther. That's so now this person thought, okay, so he's going to complain to Rave about the price of the shtar. But really, why were the buyers telling him to say this to Rave? To prove to Rave that he understands the value of money. And now Rava will paske in that his sale is in effect. So Ozal Amalei, so he went, the seller went and told Rava this. So now Amalahu, he said to the buyer, Zvine, look, he understands the value of money and therefore the sale is in effect. So Amrulei Kroive, so the relatives came to Rava and said, he didn't say this on his own, the buyers that wanted to show that he understands, they taught him to say this. They basically fooled him into saying this, but he didn't say it on his own. Amaluhu, Rava says it doesn't matter. Mizbirilei Savar. But when they told him that he should say this, he understood it. He understood that he's being overcharged for the price of this shtar. That's at least what he was thinking, and therefore he was arguing this to Rava. Kiva the Mizbirilei V'Savar. If when they told him to say this to Rava, he understood it, and therefore he said it to Rava, that means Meide Yada. That means that he could understand money and it's valuable to him, and therefore he's going to complain to Rava. If it's not something that he was really cared about, and so then even after they told it to him, he wouldn't complain to Rava. The fact that he complained about this, it means that he understands what money is, and therefore his sale will be in effect. That Rava explains, and this foolish behavior that he did in the beginning, that he threw the pits into the room of Rava, Rava says that doesn't prove that he's a shaita. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a fool. It proves that he's a chutzpah, that he has chutzpah. That's what it proves. But it doesn't prove that he's a shaita.
If it's only that, why did it disqualify him as? Why did the throwing into the pits disqualify him? Rava said he's not.
In the beginning, Rava thought that throwing pits maybe is a sign of a shaita. But now that he saw that he's not a shaita, he understands the price and he understands money, so now Rav is saying, then we'll interpret what he did before just as chutzpah. And the sale will be in effect. Because
so we see of looking at the overall person, it stays.
Correct. And here you have to see that this person understands money.
Why would he want to do that? Why do he want to throw the pits l'chilchila?
To prove that the sale is not in effect. He wanted to have charata from the sale.
I want to go back.
Yeah, he wanted to have charata. Ravuna Bereida Rav Yeshua says,
put up by other adults. He was being
Okay. Ule'edos, now regarding testimony, at what age is testimony accepted? Eidusei eidus. The eidus of a person is accepted as soon as he's bar mitzvah. He's an adult, and the eidus is accepted. Now, Mazutra, but even regarding this, Mazutra says, if you're saying eidus regarding a sale of movable items, then we accept this eidus from bar mitzvah, from 13 years old. But if you're saying eidus regarding a sale of a piece of land, for that he has to be older, as you said before, he has to be 18 years old or 20 years old. The Rashbamir says even any eidus that he's saying about any sale of a property, but Taisva says if it's just a simple sale, why can't he just observe even as from age bar mitzvah to see this? So Taisva says in order for him to give eidus regarding the proper evaluation of a karka, to have the knowledge to know how to evaluate a karka properly, is to be 20 years old. So Ravashi asks Mazutra about this. That what did we say? That for the sale, to say eidus about the sale of movable items, so that's from the age of bar mitzvah. But the question is, so why are you saying that when it comes to metaltalin, then even from the age of 13, he can say eidus about this? Because the reason is because zvini. Because as soon as he comes to the age of 13, metaltalin, if he sells, the sale is in effect. Right, so only by karka, since the sale is only in effect at the age of 18 or 20, therefore he could only say eidus at that age. But if that's the case, elamayata, if you're basing it on the age of when he could sell, but the truth is that even a child under bar mitzvah, Chachamim instituted that a child under bar mitzvah is able to sell. In order for him to be able to support himself, if he doesn't have any other source of income, he could support himself and sell at that even under bar mitzvah. Because it's metaltlin, only metaltlin. As Gemara brings the Mishnah in Ksubis or in Gittin, it's nan ha'pu'utais. Children They can do business, they can sell, and that's been metaltalin. And for metaltalin, in order for them to be able to support themselves. So, they do san edus. Are you going to say that a child under bar mitzvah, his edus will also be edus? If we're saying that the age of being able to say edus, testimony, is based on the age when you could sell, so that would mean that even a cotton, even a child could say edus. Amalei, so Mazutra answered, no, under bar mitzvah, the edus won't work either way, because be'ina v'omdu shnei ha'anoshim. Regarding edus, the pasuk says it has to be two men. You have to be a ish, a bar mitzvah, and veleke, and therefore that doesn't apply here. So therefore, the age of edus is at the age of 13. But for a karka, where you have to have more knowledge to evaluate a karka, for that it's at the age of 18 or 20.